Welcome back to the Tasty Brains podcast with your host, Paulie Donuts, and special guest, Mark Feinsand. Mark, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
Paulie? How you doing, man? I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just want to thank you very much for taking some time out of the busy schedule, all the Yankee-isms and Yankee life you are consumed with, for giving me a chance, to talk to you for a little bit.
My pleasure, my man.
If you could, I do a really bad job of letting people know who people are when they're on my show. So if you could just maybe give them a quick background of who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am an executive reporter for MLB.com and an MLB Network insider. I cover all of Major League Baseball for those two entities. I covered the Yankees on their beat for 16 years for MLB.com and the New York Daily News. So I've been writing about baseball professionally since 2001. So it's been quite a ride here these last 22 plus years.
And I heard you have a pretty good book. Some people like
them, actually.
Some people like those books, I hear.
I've written 3 books about the Yankees. The first one was called The New York Yankees Fans Bucket List. Second one was called Mission 27 with my co-author Brian Hoke, which was about the 2009 championship team, which we released on the 10th anniversary of that team. And then the last one was called The Franchise, which was sort of an all-encompassing look at team history told through a bunch of different essays and chapters and stuff like that.
Wow. So I'm guessing you're a huge Mets fan.
It's funny. I was a Yankee fan growing up. I was a San Francisco Giant fan growing up because my dad lived out there for a while. But doing this for a living now, any sports writer will tell you, you sort of lose that fandom and that sort of passion for a specific team.
Right.
You kind of root for good stories, and you can't be if you're covering a game and the team that we're rooting for as a youngster loses a crushing game, you can't really care. You have to
move on
your laptop and write. So, the baseball fandom in me has been out in terms of being a specific team, but I'm obviously a huge fan of the game. You couldn't cover this sport and be at as many games and be around the game as much as I am without loving the sport, because it would get pretty tedious otherwise.
Oh, I bet. I could only imagine. It's so funny that you bring up watching players. I don't know if you know, I was born and raised in Chicago. I live in Houston, Texas now. I lived in Miami for a little bit. I lived in California for about 10 years. Always, though, stayed a, Bulls, Bears, Cubs, White Sox fan. But I'm a big basketball guy, and my Bulls have sucked for a while. No offense, Chicago fans.
Excuse me. I've grown up a Knicks fan since I started watching basketball in about 1985. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I was going to say, there you go. I've been for a while there, we were the enforcers for you guys. We were just stopping you in your tracks.
Yeah. I had some heartbreaking defeats at the hand of Michael Jordan and his cohorts there. So between the Knicks, I'm a huge New York Islanders fan.
Okay.
Which was great when I was a kid and they were winning four straight Stanley Cups, but it's been a little dry for the past 30 or so years. Couple good years in there, a couple conference finals a few years ago. And then I'm a huge Washington Commanders fan, as you can see from my Washington football team hat.
Yeah, I was going to say, oh, wow, okay.
And again, going through high school, 3 Super Bowls, that was pretty great.
Not so much anymore.
Since I graduated high school, they've won like 2 playoff games, maybe 3. So
they're looking a little better.
30 years. They're looking a little better. They need to figure out quarterback. I'm not sure that Sam Howell is the answer. I mean, he certainly looked good in his one game, but it's one game. So,
yeah,
they need to figure out whether it's drafting a guy or trading for somebody or signing somebody. They need to figure out something at the quarterback position if they're going to actually become a real factor. At least they're not in the AFC where they don't have to deal with Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Herbert and
insane.
All of those powers over there. But this is not as a Washington fan. The 2 weeks in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, when you have to listen to people talk about the Eagles for 2 weeks, not particularly fun.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're just kind of shit out of luck there.
It's not
as far as sports goes. It's kind of the same way for me because I'm a huge Jordan guy. Who's your favorite player that played for the Yankees?
The Yankees, I would probably say, I mean, Don Mattingly is probably my favorite from like my time as a fan.
Okay.
I was rooting for them still as a fan when they were winning the first four championships to Torrey, and then I started covering them right there. So, I mean, Andy Pettitte, Mariano Rivera were always two of my favorite guys, and I got to
Mm-hmm.
know both of them very well, and they're wonderful people. So they're probably on that list as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, so being a Jordan guy, it's obviously Jordan, 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 everything Jordan. No one's ever going to be better than Jordan. And that's literally how my mind always is going to go. But man, over the past years, you kind of just have to start gravitating towards players because your team sucks so bad. Maybe the Commanders get smart, get rid of Chase Young, send him to the Bears, and maybe we'll give you that first round pick. You can get a QB.
No. Well, you know what? For the number one overall pick, if they believe that one of those QBs is a
Tom Brady
franchise guy, then that might not be the worst idea. But man, I love Chase Young, and I would like to see him stay at Washington for a long, long time.
He is. He reminds me a lot of Javon Curse and LeVar Arrington, those guys, but just way more mobile, faster. He seems like I was a big Javon Curse guy. I always liked him, and I thought LeVar Arrington was just a straight up dog, as Pat McAfee would say.
Yeah, LeVar was one of my favorite guys on the Redskins for many years. I was really psyched when they drafted him, and he was outstanding. As long as Chase Young can come back with that same quickness, and he looked good when he first got back those last few games of the year.
Yeah.
As long as he can come back with that same quickness and the knee isn't an issue for him, he hasn't lost a step or anything, then I think he's going to be a great one.
I agree. I'm going to transition for a second because I'm sure people that are listening to this, even when I messaged my dad and my brother, I'm like, oh, I got Mark Feinsand coming on, and they were like, whoa, that's pretty cool. They're huge. No, they're huge baseball guys in Chicago, and my parents own a restaurant in Chicago called Carson's Ribs. A lot of the players used to go there and whatnot, and his brother had a place in Arizona called Don and Charlie's.
Oh, I've been to Don and Charlie's.
So that's my quote unquote my dad's brother.
Okay.
And if you're into baseball, Don and Charlie's used to be a freaking like must go.
Absolutely, you'd go there after a game or even on an off night. If a team was in town, and there would be all kinds of baseball people there. The first time I ever went there actually was during the 2001 World Series.
Oh wow!
On one of the off nights, and you walked into the place and you felt like you knew half the people in the restaurant. It was that was a great spot.
Yeah, it's too bad what happened when it burned down, but as far as collectibles and memorabilia go, that rivals like any place on the planet Earth. And the way that I ended up coming in contact with you is through my business, which is cards. A lot of people know, and that's exactly what my brother asked. Said, how the hell did you get him on the show? I'm like, I don't know. I sent him an email, and he just was like, no, and then finally he said yes. But the true story is you were a customer of mine, and I had no idea who you were because it's not like you're like, hey, I'm Mark. I work for MLB Network, and I've wrote all these books, and I've been covering baseball for 90% of my life, and here's me. Please sell me.
And let me take that $5 Steph Curry card.
Exactly. But it's such a crazy thing. This has happened to me more than once in my life. When I used to run a restaurant down in Miami, one night it was really late. We were getting ready to close. This is South Beach, and everyone's trying to go out for the night. The restaurant's closing down, and I get a phone call. Random. It's literally 5 minutes to where I'm getting ready to clink those doors, money in the safe, time to go out with friends. And I get a phone call, and it goes, hi, this is security detail for the Prince of Dubai. We'd like to come in, 3 tables. And I'm like, well, shit, I can't say no, So I grab a couple of the closing servers and say, hey, we got a special guest coming in. Prince of Dubai's coming in. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, at least they know they're going to make some money, right? And, well, they're hoping they are. So he comes in, the whole entourage comes in, security detail comes in first. They scope out the place where we set up the seats. They gave me a whole bunch of instructions. I had to make sure, tick, 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 to check all the boxes. They did a quick sweep. So in walks in these group of people. I think it was like 14 people plus another 7 of security detail. And they already had placed an order of like drinks and wine that they wanted, some crazy stuff from like the library collection, and I was blown away. And they come in and I shake everyone's hand. The security guard, men, women, doesn't matter what they look like. And then there was the one security guard, the main dude, was like, "Hi, this is the Prince of Dubai." I'm like, "Okay, very nice to meet you, sir. This is your table." And then there were some other people that were just looking like randoms. I said, "So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming to our restaurant." Blah blah blah. So they end up sitting down. Fast forward, dinner gets done. They're all leaving. I shake everyone's hand again, and I went up to the table multiple times, see how they were doing, make sure everyone was doing okay, not just the Prince of Dubai. And they end up, I guess I should put that in air quotes for people who are watching, all two people that are watching. So they are leaving. I shake everyone's hand, and who I thought the Prince of Dubai was, he goes, "Nice to meet you, Paul. Thank you so much for treating everyone equally and kindly. I'm not the Prince of Dubai. I'd like to introduce you to him before he leaves. He's right here." And he was in like a t-shirt and pants, not dressed in like crazy royalty kind of thing.
Right.
And it's just one of those things that you never know who you're dealing with, and when they're a customer or whatever. And I think if our first couple dealings, I was just a shithead, and you're like, yeah, definitely not going to let him know that I'm. And we kind of, I didn't touch the tips and cross the streams until someone let me know, told you to message me kind of thing on your account. And I kind of go, holy shit. All right. That's pretty nuts. I'm happy I was nice to you.
No, you're the man. You're the man. So my son and I got into cards. I collected cards a lot when I was a kid. And then like everybody else during the pandemic, I dug out all my stuff out of the basement and we started going through it. And my son, who at the time was probably 11,
okay,
really got into it, and he's gotten super into it. And so it's been fun for me to kind of get back into the hobby with him a little bit.
Does he do stack sales on Twitter? Does he hop in?
He does not. No, he watches yours with me, and if there's something he wants, I'll try to type fast enough to get it for him. But it's been a lot of fun.
That's amazing. So, man, that's got to be so badass for your son, because you're so, I mean, connected with baseball. I mean, he's probably, I'm guessing he's met a few players and whatnot.
Yeah, he's met some players over the years. It's funny because in terms of cards, he likes baseball a little bit, but he's really more of a basketball collector.
It's because it's more exciting
as well. A little bit of football as well. Well, I think the stars are just bigger. And, when you're talking about guys like, Mahomes and Brady and Curry and LeBron and, Giannis and guys like that, I think the names are just bigger. And he's got a couple guys that are, his favorite players, and he certainly has a pretty nice collection for one or two of them.
That's amazing. Are you in obviously you said you were in a basketball, right? Are you still a Knicks fan?
I am still a Knicks fan. It's been difficult, but at least this year they've been a little more entertaining to watch. The Brunson signing was really good, and we're just waiting. We're just waiting for them to get that one big star. They haven't had one since Carmelo Anthony left. They keep talking about, they're going to have money in free agency and this and that, and yet they never quite land the big guy. There was some hope that maybe Durant and Kyrie were going to come to the Knicks. They went to the Nets.
Kobe.
They just haven't had that. They just haven't had that one big star. It's really hard to win in the NBA if you don't have one of the top 5 or 7 best players in the league. So they just haven't been able to get that guy. But hopefully, at some point, they will.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. You're like mainly a baseball guy, and here we are on a rant about basketball. But the Knicks, if you took Jalen Brunson and put Luka Doncic in there, that whole squad. I mean, Luka would be great on any team, but he needs support, and the Knicks have tons of support. It's kind of like the Cavs situation. The Cavs are good. Are they going to win the East? No, because they don't have Donovan Mitchell's good, but they don't have, and he's great, but I don't think they have that it star. Where Brooklyn, I mean, it seems like Kyrie's just playing lights out currently, and it looks like they're charging up in the East with the Heat and the Bucks as far as things go. And my Bulls and your Knicks just are going to be say la vie.
Maybe in the play-in, maybe they sneak the 6th seed, but I don't expect if it comes down to the playoffs that they're going to be able to beat a team like the Bucks with Giannis or Philly with Embiid. or even the Nets. They're just Celtics obviously are a huge team. They're just not in
Yeah,
the same class
Celtics.
as those teams, not yet anyway.
Right. As and on the baseball side, I mean, everything's getting ready to ramp up here soon, right? We're getting ready to
Yeah, spring
party.
training starts. Spring training starts in I think less than 2 weeks, and it's we're back for another season. It was a great one last year. A little unexpected matchup in the World Series in terms of the Phillies getting there, and then the
Yeah.
Padres knocking out the Dodgers, and you'll see the same teams for the most part be competitive, but there's always one or two that kind of climb out of nowhere. Maybe Seattle takes that next step this year. Maybe Texas with all their signings the last couple of years, maybe they take a little step forward. The Angels had a really nice offseason. I know everybody would love to see Trout and Ohtani get to the playoffs just to see them on the national stage.
Jesus.
The Cubs had a nice offseason, but
Yeah.
I think the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mets, the Braves, the Cardinals, those are kind of the teams to watch in the National League. And then, the Astros and the Yankees, Cleveland.
Do you
Tampa
see
Bay,
is Tatis
Toronto.
coming back? Tatis coming back this year? Is the suspension
he's
over
for the first 20 games of the year? He'll be back before the end of April.
Yeah, I spent time in San Diego. My buddy went to the opening game with the first game Soto played, and he hadn't heard that he was on the team. He just showed up, and he's like, "Damn, man, it's like." He sent me a text. He goes, "It's like packed in here for some reason." And he's seeing like Soto jerseys. He's like, "Soto, what the hell?" And then he comes out and he's like, "Holy shit, we got Juan Soto."
Oh, I'm guessing he doesn't follow me on Twitter then, because if he followed me or any of the national baseball guys on Twitter, he would have known Juan Soto was on the Padres.
That was probably one of the biggest news stories as far as players moving around. I would say, every year it seems like they talk about where Trout and Ohtani are going to end up, because they're sitting there and there's nothing happening ever. And it's always like, I feel like every year they're like, yeah, man, they're going to go somewhere, man. Someone's going to pick them up. They're making cap space, blah, 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 or whatever they're doing. They're freeing up money. They're going to make this happen. And they end up still chilling where they're at and waiting. Everyone's waiting, like you said, to see them in the postseason, even just to see it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've seen big players move before, but normally when players of that ilk move, it's with 1 year left on their contract, and it's just sort of like the team knows they're not going to be able to sign him. The fact that they were able to trade for Soto with 2.5 years left on his deal, he's going to be there for a while. So, that was certainly one of the bigger trades that we've seen in recent history.
And then, the Judge man, the slept-on Judge. I say he slept on because there was a moment where, from a card aspect, I was seeing stuff, and I kind of go, man, this guy, I remember him being really, I don't follow baseball hardcore, I know the players that are kind of hot and just for my card stuff. And, with getting involved in the prospecting situation and how expensive these guys that haven't played professional baseball before, how their cards have skyrocketed over the years. It's kind of crazy to me. And then I sit there and I would see Judge cards at card shows just cheap. I go, man, that seems cheap for this guy. And then all of a sudden, man, he just started clocking them out of there. Where do you live right now? Are you in New York?
I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey?
About an hour from Manhattan.
How crazy was that kind of feverish run? Probably nuts for Yankee fans.
It was pretty exciting. I mean, Yankee fans were obviously loving it. They were trying to hold on to a playoff spot at the same time,
right.
And watching him, go for those records was great. And Judge is a very beloved figure in New York. The only question with him ever his whole career has not been his talent; it's been his ability to stay on the field.
Yeah,
he did it in 2021. He kind of bet on himself going into 2022, not taking the Yankees a preseason extension offer. And that bet paid off in a $360 million contract. So now he's the captain of the team. He's going to be here for the rest of his career. And, I would imagine that, I think the card aspect of it, people love the prospecting. People love to, see the top prospects, go for their first Bowmans. And, so they can say, oh, look, I was on this guy back before he was even in the big leagues. But I feel like when they get the hype as prospects is when their cards are probably worth the most. Rarely do they live up to what their prospect hype was.
Right. Yeah, like a Julio Rodriguez. I mean, I think he seems like he's going to be the Ken Griffey 2.0. Mixed with that like kind of Acuna flair of comedy and pizzazz. Griffey was a funny guy, and some of the guys, all the baseball players are pretty charismatic in a way, but some are just on like another level. And like I feel like Ronald Acuna Jr. is one of the people that's really like photogenic. He's always trying to make the face or do something funny. And J-Rod seems to have that same kind of little flair. And I know during the home run derby when he was just crushing it, it seemed like I was doing a sale that night, and I'll never forget. I was putting up J-Rod cards, and they were flying off the shelves like I was giving them away.
Yeah, no, J-Rod's definitely one of the up and coming stars. I mean, huge prospect, won Rookie of the Year, had that big showing at the Derby. The All-Star game is going to be in Seattle this coming summer, so he's going to be the face of that game. The tricky thing is, it's not about 1 year; it's about a career. So he's got to follow that up. He's got to continue to put up numbers. He's got to continue to get the Mariners to the postseason. They finally broke that 21-year postseason drought, which was huge in Seattle. So J-Rod is certainly on a trajectory to be one of the biggest stars in the game, but there's a lot that goes into that, and you have to live up to it.
Yeah, and and it's funny how big Trout and Ohtani are, and they really haven't won anything,
Nothing. Trout's been in the playoffs once, and they didn't even win a game.
And if it was football, if we were talking football players, it's hard to put someone like Dan Marino on a list. It's not hard for me. I think he's one of the top 10 top 5 probably quarterbacks of all time. But he's, people give him shit, or Barkley, they're like, yeah.
I think the one thing is in baseball and football, one guy can't.
Exactly. Right.
I mean, you can't lead your team to the World Series by yourself.
No matter how many homers you hit.
Right. And no matter how good of a quarterback you are, you can't lead your team to the Super Bowl. That you don't play defense, you're not catching the ball, you're not running the ball, you're not blocking. There's so much that goes into those sports. In the NBA, if you're one of the 5 best players in the game, if they surround you with some marginal talent, you have a chance to win, right? I mean,
right.
Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday are really good players, but they're not superstar, top level, number 1 types.
For sure.
They complement Giannis really well. They won a championship. We've seen enough teams with good players surrounding a great player win. It doesn't work like that in those 2 sports. So I think it's really tough to just judge somebody's career in those 2 sports based solely on did you win a championship or not? Because like you said, Marino was great, but he didn't have the other 21 guys on his starting roster to get it done.
I know, and he's a funny one. I've met him a couple times. I used to run one of his restaurants in Miami, and I got to go to this it was a Hall of Fame fundraiser dinner, and my boss took me, and I got to pick 2 of the good servers we had, and it was kind of he brought out some cool people. Jim Kelly was there, Brett Favre was there, Ben Roethlisberger was there, Brian Gumbel was there. And that was the funniest situation. I wish I had my podcast then, because literally having sitting at a table, just me and him joking about Chicago stories for an hour, and I couldn't believe having beers with Brian Gumbel and just being like, "Wow, that was nuts." I don't think that's ever going to happen again. So I'll keep that in the memories. Is there any players
do you have editing capabilities on this?
I do.
Okay, can you give me 1 second? Somebody just ran my door. I just gotta grab this.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'll run right back. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. Mark had to go to the door. Even if I don't edit it out, he'll be all right. Yeah, it's so funny. You never know in business who you're gonna run into. Happens more often than not. It's kind of good to treat people with some respect, even if you don't know who they are, and see what happens with a little appreciation and take a breath before you freak out.
All right, I'm back.
And he's back. I don't have to give life lessons to people anymore.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
I didn't want to leave it out front.
It's real out here. Is there anybody that is in the prospect world that to talk a little more baseball with you? Is there anyone that you're like, yeah, this prospect looks like he's going to be the guy? Everyone's right now. It doesn't need to be, I guess, the new ones like Jackson Holiday and those kind of guys, but
right.
I would say last year's rookies and maybe this year coming up. Is there anyone you're kind of like, yeah, he could make a real impact?
Well, I mean, obviously Anthony Volpe with the Yankees is a guy people are looking at. They sat out those 2 big shortstop classes in free agency the last couple of years because they have great hopes for him. So he's one guy. Gunnar Henderson is going to start in the Orioles lineup this year. He's the number 1 prospect in the game according to MLB Pipeline, and I think he's definitely a guy. Jordan Walker on the Cardinals. Who else?
You like that
Corbin
Corbin
Carroll.
Carroll? Yeah, I was just gonna
Corbin
say you
Carroll,
like him.
Diamondbacks. Yeah, I like him a lot. Francisco Alvarez, catcher with the Mets.
Okay.
That kid's a beast. I saw him at the Futures game a couple years ago, and he is just a monster. And the other guy I'd probably look at is Jackson Churio with the
Mm-hmm.
Brewers. A lot of hype around him, and I've talked to some people who have seen him play, and they said if he can just, sort of keep his focus and keep doing what he's doing, he's got a chance to be a multi-time All-Star guy. So those are probably the young guys who I would look at. And of course, great now when you put up cards of any of these people, it's going to cost more money.
Yeah, I got it. And it's a hard thing though to kind of get access to those cards. It's funny though. It's really like a show thing. You need to be at the shows, talking to guys that open a ton of prospect baseball. Because if you don't, it's kind of hit or miss as far as it goes.
Well, I will say this also. I know my son and I have seen this at shows that we've gone to. A lot of people at these shows don't know about a lot of these guys, right? So, like, everybody knew Jason Dominguez because he was a big name, he's a Yankee.
Just like Volpe.
About a guy like Adley Rutschman, your number one pick. That people are going to know about Jackson Holiday. But some of the other guys, they don't necessarily know. So if you have the time at a show to dig through some dollar boxes, you can probably find some first Bowmans that, maybe they may not be the top 5 or 10 guys, but you know what? The guys who are 10 through 30 are probably going to have pretty good careers too. So that's one thing my son and I do like to do at shows is dig through those dollar boxes. Cause you look at everybody's displays and everybody's got $200, $300, $500 cards.
At least
my son brings 30 or 40 bucks of them to a show. He's not buying those cards. So,
right.
He'll look for some cool inserts of players that he likes and stuff like that. But the first Bowman thing, I think you can actually find some pretty good bargains if you've done your homework and kind of know who you're looking for.
Yeah, it's an underestimated little piece of work. I mean, that's a lot of the stuff you see is from me digging at shows and digging for hours on end, just pop, card after card after card, and I have a Rolodex in my head that of people I'm looking for, and that's pretty much. I mean, there's no real science to it. You just got to be willing to sit there and put in the time and kind of have
the time and kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah, have a little eyeball for it. Do you guys?
Yeah, we're going to a show this weekend, and same thing. We're sort of
in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, in Freehold, at I Play America. So
okay,
it's a pretty good size show they put on. And then I'll do a little plug here. Sunday, there's I think it's called the Pinstripe Pride collectible show, and it's at the American Dream up in East Rutherford by the Meadowlands. And
okay,
it's a whole big Yankee show, and they're going to have a whole bunch of Yankees there, signing autographs.
Oh wow!
Prices, depending on the player. My co-author Brian Hook and I will have a table set up, and we will be selling and signing copies of our books. So if anybody's in the northern New Jersey area and you're a Yankee fan, you want to come by and say hello and get a book or two, we'll be there Sunday. I think pretty much all day.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Sounds like a great show. I mean, especially if you're a Yankees person.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of big Yankees there. So I don't have the list in front of me, but I looked at the names, and that show's going on all weekend, and they've got a bunch of pretty notable players there.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I've been trying to get baseball players on any sports players because I love talk. It's like sports and music for me are kind of sports, music, and working out are kind of like my trio of fun things to talk about or that I really, really care about. Try to stay away from religion and politics, for Christ's sakes.
Donuts?
Oh, donuts are always a good topic for me, man.
Hey, when we first started this, I was expecting to see Beetlejuice on the other screen here.
I look kind of like him, I
don't know. You're a little better looking than Beetlejuice. I think. You probably don't scare people quite as much.
Only on Halloween.
Exactly.
And it's so funny. I still don't know how Beetlejuice became my avatar in this card life. It just ended up happening. It was a sticker on my old truck, right? And then it became a tattoo on my leg, and then
You mean this sticker right here?
There it is. One of the best stickers in the game.
Love it.
Better than any professional sticker ever made, I think. Probably not. Oh man, I forgot. I just totally spaced on what I was going to ask you. Oh, how many games do you go to in person? Are you going all the
Well,
time because of
when
work
I
or?
when I covered the team exclusively, I was going probably to about 130 games a year.
Wow,
I
that's a
mean,
grind.
I traveled the entire road schedule, all 81, and then I did about 50 home games. Now that I'm sort of on the national beat, I don't go to nearly as many games. Maybe 10 to 20 a year.
Okay.
A lot of what I do is on the phone talking to people around the game, scouts, executives, agents, players. Most of it is able to be reported from home. But I do still go to the ballpark, at least a few times a month.
How did you fall into just, doing this career? I'm always interested how, my story of the Navy is how I fell into that is just crazy. And I think everyone that, it's not like you just woke up one day and you go, oh, yep, I like those Yankees and I'm going to write some books on them. So I'm totally curious how that all happened.
In terms of getting into baseball, I kind of fell into it as well. I went to Boston University. I got my degree in broadcast journalism. Wanted to be either a play-by-play guy or a sports radio host or something like that.
Yeah.
Those jobs weren't very easily attainable out of college, so I ended up writing for a couple of different publications, and I found that I really enjoyed the writing. So I was at foxsports.com. I was at a place called the Sports Business Daily. And while I was at Fox, they were moving their entire operation out to LA. And I was not moving to LA. So I started looking around. And a friend of mine had started to work at MLB.com in the very early iteration of the site. And he told me they were looking for writers for the Yankees and Mets. So I applied. He helped me get an interview. And I kind of just talked my way into it. And even though I had no beat writing experience, but they didn't really know what the site was going to be and how it was going to work. And they were willing to take a chance on me, and
Wow.
here we are 22 years later, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah, obviously great at what you do because it's these days especially. It's so when you started, I'd imagine there wasn't Twitter and all that shit. So
Nope,
that must have changed the game
it was a much
completely.
simpler time.
I guess it. It's so funny. It's almost like a double-edged sword because you had access, right, to people within your ecosphere of players and teams and whatnot as far as the sport goes. But even with that access, the players only told you what was on their mind at the time, and scouts and other reporters. Now it's like you get full research before you even meet somebody. You can just scroll through their social media and be like, well, I know your life. So,
Right.
and you can start building these questions and info.
More than that, I think it's just that Twitter turned the news cycle into a 24-hour thing more than ever before. There were 24-hour news channels before, but
C-SPAN.
ESPN just reran SportsCenter from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. and it wasn't the breaking news aspect of it. When I was working for the Daily News, you'd send your story into the paper. It would be in the next morning's paper. And once you sent it in, your night was done. And something broke at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, it wasn't getting in the paper. Eventually, obviously, we had a website and you could always get stuff up on the website, but it didn't get the kind of attention or the kind of traffic that obviously the newspaper did. I mean, in New York, especially, the paper was a big deal. It's on every newsstand by every subway station. And those back pages would really control the conversation in New York sports. I mean, even if you were listening to Mike and the Mad Dog, they were talking about what was in the paper that day. So Twitter really turned the news cycle into a true 24/7 where, I can get an alert at 2:30 in the morning, or I can get a text from somebody at 2:30 in the morning that something's happening, and I can get it out there immediately in real time.
Wow.
So yes, I sleep, but my phone does buzz, and my wife loves that.
I was going to say that
when I get a text at 2:30 in the morning about something,
you can't have your phone on Do Not Disturb, can you?
Never.
That's nuts.
I mean,
man.
during the season, I can, maybe not in July, trade deadline kind of time, and in the off season with free agency. I mean, there are plenty of agents out in California and who are doing business late at night out there. So no, I mean, in the off season, I can't turn my phone on to Do Not Disturb ever.
And as a reporter, I mean, I'm guessing you have sources and whatnot that kind of are like your people that you've built up a trust network with, and you're not going to be like, hey, Paulie Donuts just told me that Giannis is getting traded to the Bulls. and just because I'm Giannis's brother, and then completely out me and ruin the whole relationship, right? I'm guessing your first couple months, it took time, or years, it took time over time to build those relationships and keep them going, right?
Years for sure. When you're covering one team, if there's stability in the front office and there's stability in the coaching staff, which there was for a very long time and still is, you definitely develop relationships with people over time. Covering players, I mean, we know how free agency works, that players are coming and going every year, it seems.
Right.
So even if there are, 5 or 6 guys who were on that team for 10 years, chances are the other 20 around them are not going to be. The faces and names are always going to change. So in my industry is very much about relationship building, and being able to have people trust you, you trust them. I mean, there are certain sources I have where if they call me and tell me something, I know it's true, and I don't even need a second source.
Wow.
I'll still usually try to find one just because that's the safer
CYA.
way to go.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there are some people who'll call you and tell you something, and you're like, yeah, I probably need 1 or 2 other people to confirm this before I'm actually willing to go out on a limb and report it.
Yeah, and that's so. What a crazy freaking world to live in. I always thought that was so cool when because I watch or Adam Schefter will post something, or all the beat writers slash name news peeps on Twitter. It'll be like such and such. Like when Brady retired this morning and put out that video. I got it in a chat thread I was in. I was like, whoa, is this real? And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's for real for now. Until in three weeks he's like, you know what? I think I got to play again.
He retired until he decides that he's not. It's fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I think everybody's going to have until we get to June and he's still retired and not on anybody's roster. I think there's going to be a little like, well, you never know anything. Brett Favre used to do this all the time, right? Where every year it'd be like, yeah, I'm probably going to retire, and then all of a sudden, nope, I'm going to be a Jet. Nope, I'm going to be a Viking. So
MJ did it to me once, and thank God it only was one time because I couldn't take it anymore.
I mean, if the Niners call Tom Brady in April and say, look, Purdy's not going to be ready for the season. We've traded Jimmy G. Trey Lance's knee is still a little bit iffy, and come home, Tom. You're from Northern California. Come home for this year. Let's win another Super Bowl. Is it completely out of the realm of possibility that he won't do that? No, of course not.
No way.
So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm certainly not reporting anything. I have no football sources. But just, we've seen it happen once before.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to completely discount the idea of it happening again.
So you're mostly in, like, do you have a show? Are you on a show like some of these like Undisputed style, kind of crazy first take stuff?
No hot take stuff.
Okay.
I do a number of shows on MLB Network, not one specific one that I'm on all the time.
Right.
But I'll do Hot Stove or MLB Central, which are their 2 morning shows, off season and in season.
Yep.
MLB Now with Brian Kenny. I'll go on Christopher Russo, the Mad Dog's High Heat show. MLB Tonight, which is their kind of flagship news show. So I pop around all over the place, but no, I'm not in the business of hot takes by any means. I respect people for working hard and doing what they do. I actually have known Max Kellerman for probably 35 years. We went to high school together.
Man, I used to listen to him like crazy in San Diego with him and Marcellus.
Yep.
And when it stopped, I was so pissed. Like, because he's on the other show now with Jay Will and whatever.
Yep. Yeah. Max is a great radio guy and TV guy. But I mean, he had a show in New York here on ESPN Radio for a number of years, and it was a great listen. He's smart, very smart guy, thinks a little outside the box at times, isn't just gonna sort of fall in line with what everybody else says.
And he doesn't get too hot on the takes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes he does. But look, that's the job. It's funny. A friend of mine who lives up in Boston is a huge all Boston sports fan, obviously loves Brady from all his days with the Patriots. And anytime that somebody puts out there, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes is already better than Tom Brady and this and that, and he'll start texting me, oh, I can't believe what Nick Wright said or what this guy said. And I always say to him, I'm like, why do you care? Well, like, if you think this guy is an idiot and you think that everything he says is ridiculously wrong, stop listening to him. These guys, this is their job when we were talking about
it is to get you to type like that.
all those morning guys, all those morning TV hot take guys, right?
Yep.
And like Stephen A. Smith, I put in a different category because Stephen A. Smith was a newspaper writer. He was a beat writer and a columnist for years, and he's got a very firm journalistic background. Shannon Sharp was a football player,
Right.
He doesn't have the journalistic background. His job is to say something outrageous and loud so that you text your buddy or you tweet about it. And if he gets you to text your buddy or tweet about it,
boom,
and he's done his job. So,
right.
There's an art to the whole hot take industry that I don't think that's my forte. I don't know that I would thrive on a show like that. I like reporting things and talking about things that are fact. And, will I give some analysis and give some opinion from time to time? Absolutely. But you're not going to hear me say, the Dodgers are finished. They let go of these guys. They're finished. They're never going to be any good again. They're not going back to the World Series. That's not my game. So, the people who have that game, good for them. I respect it and appreciate it, but that's not my lane at all.
Yeah, and I feel like baseball isn't a big hot take world. There's some moments, but it's not on the same level as basketball and football. There is a hot take every 5 seconds on those two sports, and maybe just because baseball is a longer game, longer season, longer lifespan of players, you never really know. Someone could just all of a sudden surprise you in their 7th year in the season. You go, holy shit, where'd this person come from? Just like people forgot about Aaron Judge in a way, kind of forgot. And then all of a sudden he's healthy, whatever, he fixed his recovery protocol, and maybe he's putting baseball at the forefront instead of whatever else he was doing. And boom, he explodes again. No one would have had I'm sure the hot take was, yeah, Judge is done for a little while, or some silly.
The interesting thing about Judge is that he had a lot of injuries, but they were all kind of flukish injuries. He got hit by a pitch, broke his wrist, and missed, a couple of months. Broke a rib diving for a ball. Like, this wasn't. There are some injuries, especially in baseball, where it's that lingering. He's got that lingering elbow problem.
I was just say elbow.
He's got that hamstring
shoulder,
or that calf that he just can't quite get totally healed, and then he busts it down the first baseline and it tears again or re-aggravates it. Those kinds of injuries are frustrating because you just can't ever really shake them. Judge's injuries were kind of fluky. So I think the idea was, if he just keeps playing his game and can avoid those fluky injuries, the guy's got immense talent. And I know nobody forgot about him in New York. I know looking at it from a card hobby standpoint, it may have seemed that way. But now that he's established that record, now that he's the captain of the team and the face of the franchise, and really right now, I would say the face of the game.
Yeah, I love him.
I think you'll probably see his stuff start to rise.
And before I let you go, I just want to thank you again because I know I don't want to keep you past my my already abused limit on you. Just thanks again. Is there anything you want to plug, promote, put out there for the peeps, for the Tasty Brains Collective?
Yeah, no, I mean, I talked about that show this weekend up at American Dream. I'll be there Sunday for most of the day selling and signing books. Follow me on Twitter at Feinsand, Feinsand. You can read all my work on MLB.com. And if you haven't already bought the 3 books, go to your bookstore. They're all there. Go to Amazon. They're all there.
Audiobook as well?
I don't think they've had audiobooks. They have digital books, if you want to download them on your Kindle
Perfect.
or your iPad. They're good reads. They're obviously all 3 are Yankee specific, but especially the franchise, about the history of the team. You can't tell the history of baseball without talking about the Yankees and all their contributions. And that 09 team in Mission 27 had some really good, big personalities. Obviously, some legendary guys like Jeter and Rivera. You had CC Sabathia, who will be a Hall of Famer. Guys like Nick Swisher and AJ Burnett, who really brought some personality to that team. So it's a fun read. Oh, I didn't even mention A-Rod, who's kind of a big presence himself. And
he's a pretty big name.
All over that. He's all over that book too. So we loved the way that book came out. It was a lot of fun to write and sort of catch up with these guys that we covered back in 09. I don't think you have to be a Yankee fan to really appreciate that book.
No, it sounds awesome. Now I'm going to have to read it. Because I'll feel like an asshole if I don't, and 2, I guess I need to know more about this team.
There you go.
All right, brother. Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much again for coming on. Buy his damn book. Like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on all the major streaming platforms. Freaking my Twitter is at Paulie Donuts. IG is at Tasty Brains Pod. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
It's a stacking.
That's right, brother. Thanks.